Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, I am super excited for our guest. It's Dr. Dan Gubler, and he is here. Well, actually, I should tell you, he's been a chemist for years and years, still is a chemist, but has a huge passion for health and wellness and food and the chemistry of food and how food helps our bodies. And so I'm excited to just ask him a lot of questions. A lot of you might know him from Instagram. He has a huge following on Instagram and is a really fun person to follow on Instagram. And so I'm excited that you're here today, Dr. Dan. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. So grateful to be with you today.
Well, like I said, you're a chemist,
Yeah.
and you now, though, have this huge passion for health and wellness and are teaching hundreds of thousands on Instagram. So, how did you go from chemist to health and wellness person?
I've always loved human health, and that was the reason I always wanted to be a chemist. I've wanted to be a chemist since I was a young boy. My grandfather was a well known chemist. He was part of a team that discovered vitamin B1, its role in the
Oh,
body,
wow.
and copper metabolism back in the day when people thought that, copper metals they didn't belong in the body. And so he was my idol. And so I loved what he did. I palled around in his lab and I saw that the science, the chemistry that he did applied to human health. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to use chemistry and science to improve health. And that's where it started.
Oh, interesting that you wanted to do that at such a young age.
Yeah,
That's fascinating. Okay, so on Instagram, you call yourself the molecular expert.
that's right.
So, why is that?
So when we talk about organic chemistry, it's all about molecules. And so people might be like, organic chemistry, does that mean organic farming or organic produce? Well, when we talk about molecules, there's two different classes of molecules. There's organic molecules that contain carbon primarily, and there's inorganic molecules that basically comprise minerals. And so when we talk about the body, all of the molecules, the nutrients, the proteins, the fats, the carbs are made out of carbon. They're organic molecules. And so I am obsessed about molecules. I eat, I sleep, I drink, I breathe molecules. It's what I do and it's who I am.
And then are you looking at the molecules in food or in the how it's affecting the cells, like both?
Both. So I received my undergrad at Brigham Young University and I studied biochemistry. And then I went to graduate school and I combined biochemistry with organic chemistry. So what I'm really interested in is how molecules that naturally exist in the body, how they work to improve human health. And then I'm really interested in how molecules in plants, including exotic tropical plants, herbs, botanicals, and most importantly, food, how they improve human health.
Okay, so I know on your account you've talked about phytonutrients
Yes.
before. And when I talk about food, people are always confused when I talk about phytonutrients. And so I know there's micronutrients, there's macronutrients, and I feel like some people know the macronutrients, but the micro or phytonutrients, they get a little confused. So maybe let's just explain all three.
Be happy to. So, macronutrients, like I said, a lot of people know those. Macronutrients consist of fats, proteins, and carbs. And when you look at social media and people talking about health and wellness, they're obsessed about macros,
Yeah.
especially high protein right
Yep.
now. High protein, good fats, carbohydrates. We don't like carbohydrates, although complex carbohydrates are amazing and essential for your health.
Right.
So, macronutrients, it's like the name implies, they're big molecules. And usually what they are is they're small molecules like amino acids and like lipids that are combined together to form these larger molecules. So
Okay.
macronutrients, you could think of them are like the fuel in the body that the
Okay.
body needs. So it's like putting gas into your gas tank of your car. Micronutrients are vitamins and minerals, vitamin B1, vitamin C, vitamin E, and then minerals like magnesium, calcium. And a lot of people know about those as well. For instance, we know about magnesium and how it can help with sleep and stress. And we know about B vitamins when it comes to energy. And so those are important for the body. Those help to make sure that enzymes, which are the molecular machines of the body, that they function properly. And then, like you said, there's a third class that people don't really know much about, or they might know the name phytonutrients, but they really don't know what it means. Phytonutrients, phyto meaning plant, and nutrients, something that can benefit human health. These are molecules, these are organic molecules, small molecules that are vital for health. So, to understand the importance of phytonutrients, I like to go to pharma, where we look at pharmaceutical drugs. What a lot of people don't know is that 50% of all pharmaceutical drugs are phytonutrient based. They're
Oh,
either a
interesting.
phytonutrient itself that medicinal chemists are using as a drug, or they use that as a starting point, and then they put different adornments, decorations on that phytonutrient to make it more druggable, to make it a better drug. And that then becomes the drug. So when we
Interesting.
look at pharma's using Mother Nature's secrets to improve health.
Or then you looking at those compounds and making a synthetic form of it.
That's right. And so
Okay.
when it comes to a phytonutrient, there's one that people might understand or they might have heard of, which is resveratrol. And resveratrol is a molecule that comes from grapes. It comes from peanuts. It's naturally occurring, and it helps with longevity, aging, and a bunch of different other facets of human health. So there were articles that came out. Resveratrol kind of it came into public consciousness probably about 10 years ago when there were articles, I don't know if you remember, where people were saying drinking a glass of red wine a
Yeah.
day after dinner might be good for health. Well, that's because people keyed into this molecule resveratrol that's super powerful and good, like I said, for longevity, heart health, brain health, and vascular function.
Okay, so these phytonutrients are antioxidants phytonutrients or not necessarily?
They can be, but phytonutrients play a bunch of different roles in the body. They can help with oxidation, they can help with cellular signaling. One of the things that I'm most interested in is a lot of these phytonutrients can help with gene expression. They can
Mm.
help regulate the genes of our body.
Turn the genes on or off,
That that's
sort of.
that's right. So we have 25,000 give or take genes in the body. It's really interesting. As scientists, we still don't know how many genes we have in the body, which you might be like, what? That seems like a really simple answer. Well, it's not. Since the advent of the Human Genome Project going forward, we know we have about 25,000 genes. And these genes control all of the processes in the body. So in our bodies, we have millions of processes going on every single second, every single nanosecond. So as you and I are talking, genes are turning on and off for cognition, for understanding, for blood function, for brain function, and thousands of other processes in the body. And so these need to be turned off and turned on. And lifestyle factors like poor diet, lack of sleep, lack of exercise, stress, anxiety, soil depletion can cause these genes to go on the fritz. It can cause these switches to be stuck in either the on position or the off position. So a way I like to think about it is like a symphony, right? An orchestra where sometimes the conductor is bringing everybody in. So sometimes you have all the instruments playing, sometimes just the strings are playing, and the person with the cymbal. I always like watching the person with the cymbal. I think that he or she has the most stressful job in the entire orchestra because they have to watch the music so carefully. And if they're an eighth of a measure on or off, it just sounds
Ruins it.
terrible and it
Yep.
ruins the whole thing. And that's how genes work in our body.
Okay, so these phytonutrients are helping to turn these genes on or off.
That's right.
And so I've heard, and I don't know if this is true, I've not checked this at all. I've heard that there's over 30,000 phytonutrients. Is that correct?
There's a lot more than that.
A lot more.
Yeah. 30,000 is about what we know. But the really cool thing, what I do, so the basic premise, what I do as an organic chemist is I study and discover new molecules in plants. So
Okay.
there's 600,000 species of plants on the earth. And then again, that's an estimate. And only 5% of these plants have been studied for their
Wow.
phytonutrients.
Wow.
And so there's so many new undiscovered phytonutrients. And that's what gets me excited because when we talk about 50% of cancer drugs are from plants, I used to be on the pharmaceutical side synthesizing drugs. And that used to get me excited, that stat, because wow, look at all these new drugs that we could discover. But on the other side, when it comes to proactive wellness, discovering new molecules from plants, I'm just excited because there's new molecules out there that can help with basically every human health condition that we haven't discovered yet.
That is fascinating. Okay, so when we say plants, though, we're talking fruits and veggies also.
That's right. Yeah, when we say plants, it's things that we're eating every single day. And the really cool thing is that there's a lot of molecules in foods that we eat every single day that we haven't discovered. So one of the research projects that I work on is turmeric and curcumin. And we all know about curcumin. It's one of the master regulators of the body. People tell us to eat it in our recipes and our food. There's a lot of supplements that contain curcumin. You could buy, they're a dime a dozen
Yep.
online and whatnot. But what I'm studying is that there are actually new curcuminoids that we
Hmm.
haven't discovered yet. And
Interesting.
there's different forms of curcumin. We all know the dark orange variety, but there's green turmeric, there's blue
Interesting.
turmeric, there's black turmeric, and color. If a plant has a different color, that means that it has different types of molecules in it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk to you about all of this, but let's start with these phytonutrients. These are nutrients from a plant that are going directly to our cells and feeding our cells and basically giving our cells nutrients?
That's what they do. Yeah, a nutrient implies a health benefit. And so, what these phytonutrients do, these molecules, is sometimes they'll go directly into the cell. They can passively diffuse through the cell membrane, but sometimes that's tough because the cell membrane doesn't let a lot of things through. So, the other thing that they do is they bind to the surface of the cell and then they turn on cascades called signal transduction cascades. It's kind of like pushing over a domino. And when you push over one domino, if you have them all lined up, they all start to fall. And then at the end, they can cause an end result, right? We've probably seen those YouTube videos where you push a domino down and it, turns on waterfalls and does all these different things and whatnot. That's how it works in the body.
Okay, so one fruit, let's say an apple,
Yeah.
could have thousands of different phytonutrients?
At least hundreds. That's
Okay.
right. At least hundreds.
So all this chemistry is happening in our body as we're taking a bite of an apple and chewing it and swallowing it, and we don't even comprehend it
That's right.
for the most part.
That's right. So the really interesting thing about phytonutrients is they were only discovered in the early 80s because we
Interesting.
we haven't had the technology to really parse out. If we have hundreds of molecules in a plant, it's only been in the last 30, 40 years that we have the technology to parse them out. And really, even 30 years ago, we had the technology, but it wasn't as precise. It wasn't as good. So it's only in the last, I would say, the last 10, 15 years that we really have powerful technology like metabolomics. You might have heard of that word. That's a new technology that we can really isolate metabolites, meaning molecules in a plant, and really figure out what they're doing.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm assuming then that there are phytonutrients that help with immunity, phytonutrients that help with energy, phytonutrients that help with mood. Is that
That's right.
correct?
Exactly.
And so do we know like these certain phytonutrients do these certain things?
We know a lot of them. Yeah. So, for instance, if we take our apple example, some of the most important phytonutrients in apples are two molecules called fluoretin and fluorizin. And these molecules are really, really great for skin health. They're great for heart health. They're great for brain health. They're actually good for libido, especially in women. And so that's an example of these are two really powerful molecules that are
Interesting.
beneficial for the body. So, an apple a day, does it keep the doctor away? Really, it does. My answer is yes. And when you ask a layperson, why is an apple so good for you? What will they say?
Well, I know about the pectin and it being a
Yeah,
prebiotic and feeding the gut bacteria. So that's usually the route I go.
exactly. They say pectin, or they're not as specialized as you. They're not an expert in health like you are. So they might say, well, fiber, right? I know an
Oh,
apple contains fiber and it's good for you.
or they'll say vitamins and minerals,
Yeah,
the
vitamins and minerals.
generic.
So again, they're going back to this macronutrient or this micronutrient viewpoint. What I'm passionate about and what I'm trying to do and help educate people on social media is that it's not really about those. Those are important. So back to our fuel analogy, right? Those are fuel, but these phytonutrients, they're the spark plug. They're actually the engine that the fuel feeds into. And so you can have a car, and if the gas tank is full, that's great. But if the engine is thrown out of the car, if the spark plugs are missing, if the alternator's gone, then that car's not going to move, or at least it's not going to move very well or efficient.
So is it the phytonutrients keeping people healthy?
It is. I I contest that phytonutrients, these medicinal molecules, are the most important thing that we need in our diet today. We need to be eating more of them. And we can go and talk about, the modern processed diet, but really the modern processed diet, what it is we've taken these phytonutrients and they're gone from the food. When you think about white flour, and actually if you go back to wheat has really cool phytonutrients called benzoxazinoids that have anti-cancer properties. They're great for glucose control. They help with diabetes.
Interesting because wheat gets a bad rap.
It does. And in the processing of wheat, what happens is we take all these beautiful medicinal molecules in wheat and they're drained out. They're thrown to the side. And what we're left with is white flour. Now, as food
Sprayed with
scientists,
glyphosate, possibly.
exactly, right? And as food scientists, we're like, okay, well, vitamins and minerals have been taken out of the flour. And so, what we're going to do, because we're great scientists and we're good citizens, is we're going to fortify, we're going to put vitamins and minerals back into the flour. Voila, we're great, right? So now it has the same health benefits. Well, no, it doesn't, because number one, these medicinal phytonutrients are gone.
Are gone.
And then number two, these vitamins and minerals that we add back into them, they're synthetic. And so synthetic isn't bad per se, but synthetic, they're not absorbed in the body. The beautiful thing about natural foods, like this apple that we're talking about, is it has vitamins and minerals, it has macronutrients, it has phytonutrients, and they're in the right ratios so that these phytonutrients and the vitamins and minerals are actually absorbed into the body at high amounts because of the fiber and the pectin and other nutrients that are in that apple.
So interesting because food is miraculous.
It is.
Okay, so I'm curious why not many people are talking about phytonutrients because even when I will mention it, people are like, "What? What is that word?"
I think it's a few fold. I think that people just don't understand it. They're not trained in it. And there's not a lot of people that talk about it. You're an anomaly talking about phytonutrients. In the health space, like I said earlier, people are just so focused on macronutrients and micronutrients. And they think that they're the most important thing. Where people talking about all these macronutrient ratios, right? You have to be 60% protein and 20% this, 20% that, and whatnot. And they really miss the big picture. And one hallmark that really resonates with me that we're just missing the boat here is when people talk about calories in, calories out. It drives me crazy when influencers say, well, it doesn't matter if you eat 100 grams of an apple
I
or 100
know.
grams of donuts. It's the same thing
Drives me
because the
crazy
macros are
too.
the same. Well, no, it's not. The medicinal molecules, the life sustaining molecules for the body are gone. So it's completely different. Ultra processed foods are designed for palatability. They're designed for addictability. They're designed for just to fill the belly, but there's nothing medicinal in
Okay, I love that. I agree 1000%. So, back to the immunity, mood, and energy I had asked you about. Are there certain molecules or certain foods that have these phytonutrients in it that you love for like immunity and love for energy and love for mood?
Yeah, when it comes to immunity, some of my favorite molecules are actually in artichoke. Artichoke
Interesting.
has really powerful immune boosting properties.
Okay.
If you want to look outside, colostrum, really powerful immune boosting properties. And then we talked about pectin, fiber, these oligosaccharides, inulin, really good for supporting immune health because they're prebiotic. One of my favorite foods that nobody really eats are called sunchokes,
Okay.
or they're also called Jerusalem artichokes.
Okay.
But sunchokes, they're they're packed with inulin, and they're packed with other molecules that are actually prebiotic as well. So when we think of prebiotic, we think of fiber, but there's
Mhm.
actually small molecules, phytonutrients that are prebiotic in nature.
Oh, interesting.
Because for good bacteria to grow, they not only need fuel, just like we do, macronutrients and fiber, but they also need these small molecules.
Interesting. Okay, I thought you would have said like ginger, garlic, onion. I wasn't expecting artichoke.
Ginger, garlic, and onion are great as well. Allicin is a phytonutrient that's
Okay,
in.
that is a phytonutrient.
It
I was gonna
is.
ask
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, because a lot of
Allicin.
people know that one.
Yeah. Allicin is beautiful, a powerful phytonutrient that, frankly, we're not getting enough of in our diet. And a lot of people are thinking, well, if I use garlic powder and onion powder in my cooking, that's enough. Well, actually, it's not. Garlic and onion powder, there's no medicinal molecules in it. Basically, what clever food scientists have done is they've taken the aroma flavor of garlic and onion, and it usually not the medicinal molecules, mind you, but just the flavor of it, and then they spray dry it onto a carrier like
Mhm.
maltodextrin, and that's your onion and your garlic seasoning. And so when you season it up like that, you're getting nothing medicinal in the body, no allicin.
Okay, good to know. Before we go to mood and energy, I want to talk about Allison. So, a lot of people say like you've got to smash open that garlic or cut the onion or whatever and let it sit for like 10 minutes or so before you cook with it or use it to really get the Allison active and potent. Is that correct?
It is a good thing to do. I wouldn't say it's imperative, but it is a good thing to do because when you open it up, this allicin molecule, which has two sulfurs bound together, you actually want that to be oxidized. That makes it easier for the body to break down, not impossible. So when you let it sit open for a couple of minutes, you're oxidizing, meaning an oxygen is attached to those sulfur molecules. So when it goes into the body, it's easier for the body to more immediately break it down. But the body has oxidation processes, so it's not like you have to be really worried about letting it sit there. But it is a little more beneficial.
Okay, actually, let's talk about cooking and steaming and all this and then we'll get back to the mood and energy. I promise, listeners. Um, because sometimes when I'm cooking at night, I'll be like, oh my gosh, was I supposed to be steaming that one? Was I supposed to be chopping that and letting it sit? Oh my gosh, can I cook this one? It gets confusing.
Yeah.
So is it really that complex or are the phytonutrients always in there? Are there benefits to certain things? Help me out here.
I would say the number one principle is let's just make sure that we're eating fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
Let's make sure that we're going back to Mother Nature and tapping into her secrets, these medicinal phytonutrients, which have been around with humans for thousands of years. That's point number one. So
Okay.
if you're doing that, you're already successful. If you really want to hack into it a little bit more, biohack your food, to use the popular term, then yeah, there are different things that we can do. For instance, setting mushrooms out in the sun. I don't know if you've
I've
heard
heard
about
that
that.
one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Setting
And I'm
mushrooms
like,
out
I don't
into the
have time for
sun.
that.
Yeah. So again, setting mushrooms out in the sun convert a molecule called ergosterol into vitamin D3.
Mhm.
But again, that conversion is going to happen already to a large degree. So we're talking small amounts. And so if you want to do these small hacks, then that's good. And that will make your food a little more healthy, but it's not going to break the bank or anything. So I wouldn't fret about it or have anxiety over, oh my gosh, I forgot to do XYZ.
Okay.
Going a little bit more when it comes to cooking, a few core tenets exist when it comes to vegetables. The best way to do it, in most cases, it's best to eat your vegetables raw if you can. If that doesn't work, then lightly steaming is
Okay.
usually the best.
Am I ruining all the phytonutrients if I'm cooking them into a sauce?
Not necessarily. The more you cook it, the more phytonutrients are being leached out, they can be degrading, but they can actually be migrating from the food to the liquid.
To the
And
sauce?
so if you're making a sauce, that's great. I would say one general tenet is you shouldn't ever boil your vegetables,
Okay.
because when you boil vegetables at high heat in liquid, a lot of these molecules are water soluble. And so they go into the water. And we easily see that, right? If you take some vegetables and you boil it up, and after you drain out that liquid,
The water's green
the
or
water's
whatever.
green, it's yellow, whatever it is. And color means molecules.
I know, and I wanna get to the color part, so we're gonna get to that. Um, but one last question about cooking. So I'm, like, cooking my asparagus at 350 in the oven. Am I killing everything then?
Roasting it at 350 is just fine. Most phytonutrients, they're stable at about 450 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
And so if you're roasting it 350, 375, even 400 for 15, 20 minutes, that's just fine. One other really cool thing about cooking food is there's a reaction called the Maillard reaction. And when we have our food and we have this nice, like asparagus, when we roast it and it gets this nice, beautiful caramelization to it, that's called the Maillard reaction. Now, we don't want to go cook it so much that it becomes crispy and black, because that can actually have carcinogens, right? When people talk about, burnt toast and that's bad for you. Well, it is. Now, is it going to kill you? No, but there are molecules in that black toast that aren't good. So a brown caramelization color is called the Maillard reaction. And that's the process by which sugars are converted to other molecules. And those actually have anti-cancer properties. So
Interesting.
roasting vegetables is also a good thing. Taking it to just kind of a light caramel color not only retains the phytonutrients, but it adds some more medicinal molecules to it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that. Learn something new every day. Okay, so now back to the mood and the energy. Do you have favorite molecules or favorite food for energy?
For energy, when it comes to medicinal herbs and whatnot, I love an herb called yerba santa. Yerba santa has these cool triterpene saponins, which give energy, but without caffeine.
Interesting.
So
Like a yerba mate?
Yeah,
Same plant or
it's
totally different?
totally different species and
Okay.
whatnot. I guess, they're both, yerba Santa is from Mexico, so I guess they use yerba,
Yeah.
which is plant, right? And Santa, which is holy, I
Okay.
think. So the holy plant is what they call it. And it grows in the Baja California Peninsula. And I've been down there many times studying the plant and isolating the molecules and whatnot. So that's a really good plant for energy.
And can people find this in a herb form?
Yeah, there's herb forms that you could find, you could buy. It's starting to be used in supplements. It's more of a new herb, but you can start to find it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a phytonutrient in just a regular fruit or veggie that people could grab at the store for energy?
Yeah. So when it comes to energy, asparagus is really good for
Oh,
energy. We
interesting.
talked about
We
that.
just had that last
Yeah.
night.
Yeah. Asparagus is really good because of it has some really cool molecules, sulfur containing molecules that are really powerful for the electron transport chain. We don't want to get too geeky, but they actually help to support the energy systems of the body that can be bogged down because of these lifestyle factors we talked about earlier.
Interesting. Okay. What about, is there a favorite phytonutrient for just mood boosting?
Yeah, one of my favorite is tomatillo when it
Oh, yeah.
comes to food. And tomatillo is cool because the phytonutrients in tomatillo are withantholides.
Interesting.
And you might know of withantholides. Withantholides are actually the active molecules in ashwagandha, the
Mm,
popular adaptogen.
yeah.
Ashwagandha is great. And the active molecules in ashwagandha that help with mood and cognition, adaptogenic function are withantholides. And so tomatillos contain withantholides.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you keep mentioning color, and
Yeah.
we hear all the time, eat the rainbow. And my kids have gotten to the point of like, yeah, eat the rainbow. Like they just think it's some dumb saying, but there's some true science behind this, correct?
There is. Yep. So if a food or a plant is colored, that means it contains different molecules. So the bright red and the oranges and the yellows contain molecules called carotenoids. And these are phytonutrients. And we might have heard of those: lutein,
Hmm.
zeaxanthin, astaxanthin, especially. Astaxanthin is what gives salmon its bright pink color. And you'll notice if you look at wild caught salmon, it's more pink, a lot more pink than farm raised salmon. And why is that? Well, because the fish are eating microalgae in the open ocean that are rich in astaxanthin. And so it bioaccumulates in the flesh, in the fillet.
Okay.
And so why is it less pink in farm raised salmon? Well, they add astaxanthin in the feed that they give farm raised salmon, but it comes back to absorption, which is really cool. They put the same amount of astaxanthin in the feed. They try to calculate, okay, how much microalgae are these salmon eating? How much astaxanthin is in the salmon? And they really try to do a good job. They try to back calculate how much we need. But the thing is, synthetic astaxanthin in fish feed is not as absorbed, and it doesn't bioaccumulate to the same degree in the flesh of the salmon as the astaxanthin and microalgae in wild salmon.
Okay, I've got some questions for you about absorption and digestion, things like that. But before I ask you those, let's finish color.
Yeah,
So, the darker things, greens, purples, then those have different phytonutrients than the yellows and oranges.
that's right. So purple contains molecules, phytonutrients called anthocyanins. And these anthocyanins give kind of the dark blue, dark purple color. Green contains other phytonutrients that are more of the lignin class, or some flavonoids that aren't conjugated. We don't want to get too much into organic chemistry, but there's something called conjugation. That if there's double bonds in the molecule that can kind of flow throughout what we call resonance forms, that actually reacts more with light and gives these bright colors. So, like curcumin, the reason why it's this screaming yellow color, or berberine in the herb botanical space, it's because these bonds are conjugated in the molecule.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm assuming all these phytonutrients in these different colors all have different health benefits.
They do. They react with the genes, with different genes in the body. So we have 25,000 genes. That's a lot of genes to choose from, obviously. And the beautiful thing is these different phytonutrients in plants react with different genes in the body. And I find that point fascinating. Like, how did how did plants create these molecules that work seamlessly with the body? Is it serendipity? Is it evolution over the course of thousands of years? Some religions, a lot of different religions talk about divine intervention, a supreme being place these molecules in plants for benefiting human health. Obviously, we don't know that answer, but I'm just always fascinated. Every time I discover a new molecule and I pull it out of a plant and I find out what it does, it's just beautiful how it works together. And one thing that I love, I do a lot of work with traditional medicine healers, and it's really interesting, going to like Kerala, India, and you talk with an Ayurvedic medicine healer, and they say that they use this plant for health condition XYZ. And then I dive in and I isolate the actual molecules. And sure enough, most of the time I do find that there's a molecule that does help with the health condition that they're talking about. So again, like, how did they know that? It's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
so interesting. I remember the first time reading about spinach and all the things that it does from the point of putting it in your mouth to chewing it to you digest it and the different things that were going on. I was like, food is incredible. It literally is like a miracle with all the thousands of things that it does for your body.
Yeah.
And I think we take it for granted as most people. We just eat our food.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
okay, but back to these colors really quick, then I'll go to absorption. Um, these colors, give me maybe just an example of something a yellow veggie or fruit is doing versus like a dark, I don't know, blue or green.
So let's take a yellow bell pepper, for instance, and those are amazing. You could eat them raw. A lot of times we think about yellow bell peppers and fajitas, and those are great. When you cook your fajitas, make sure that you don't overcook the bell peppers. Again, make sure that they're crispy a little bit. I guess I don't know, el dente from the
Mhm.
pasta terminology, but that yellow bell pepper contains a molecule called lutein, and lutein is really good for heart health. It's really good for eye health, great for vision, has some good brain health properties as well. And let's compare that to a dark purple plant, vegetable like eggplant. Eggplant, the reason why it's this dark purple color is because of anthocyanins and also because of a molecule called delphinidin. And delphinidin regulates the genes related to heart health. And not only that, delphinidin is actually a master regulator for the good bacteria in our gut.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
one of the really cool things, I don't want to go on too many tangents, but one of the really cool things is when we talk about food as medicine, we think about our genes, and rightfully so, and that's important. But we need to realize that the human body has 25,000 genes. The gut microbiome, the good bacteria living in our gut, which if you were to collect them all together, it weighs the same amount as the brain. And
Mm,
sometimes we call the gut microbiome the second brain.
yep.
There's 300,000 genes in the gut microbiome.
Interesting.
And so when we eat good food, we're not only nourishing our genes, we're also nourishing the genes of our gut microbiome.
Interesting. Okay, so talking about the gut, I'm curious because right now it's been trendy to talk about vitamins and if we're absorbing these
Yeah.
vitamins, right? And a lot of people, if you've got leaky gut, what a lot of people know it as, it's hard to absorb these vitamins. Or if you've got other issues, it's hard to absorb the vitamins for people. Is it the same way with phytonutrients that some phytonutrients can be hard to absorb?
It is. That's exactly right. Because they have different molecular structures. Based on their molecular structures, some of them are harder to absorb than others. And a lot of it comes back to water solubility. The body, as we know, is at least 60% water, and it's higher in water concentration in different parts of the body. And organic molecules are hydrophobic in general, meaning they don't like water. And that
Mm,
makes sense, right? Because when it's raining, you don't see plants dissolving or anything
yeah.
like that. They are afraid of water, and so they hold their structure. And so these medicinal molecules from plants, especially if you're eating the whole food, it's a little bit different. But if we're going into supplements and we're using just resveratrol or just delphinidin or other molecules like that, just NMN, then there can be some solubility challenges. So we do need to use absorption technologies to make sure that these phytonutrients are absorbed in the body.
Okay, so I want to talk supplements in just a second, but when we're eating them as a food, we still may have absorption problems with these phytonutrients if we've got leaky gut, if we've got digestive issues.
That's right.
Okay,
Especially now that people GLP-1, these agonists that people are taking, they're the big craze right now. And GLP-1, one of the things that's happening, I mean, people are losing weight and they do so many great things, controlling blood sugar, blood insulin levels, etc., helping with brain health. But one of the things that we're starting to see in the scientific literature is that because the food sits in the stomach for so long and it's not being absorbed up into the body, we're not getting as many vitamins and minerals, and especially the phytonutrients. We're not getting medicinal molecules as much as we need because, again, it's
interesting.
being trapped in the stomach and it's not being transferred through the gut into the bloodstream.
Interesting.
And so absorption is severely needed. And when we talk about absorption technologies, there's things that we can do. We've talked about, well, when I say we, in general, we talk about fat soluble vitamins and minerals and water soluble vitamins and minerals. It's important when we eat our food that we eat a wide variety. We eat oily foods like sardines. We eat other vegetables and whatnot, just to make sure that we're getting a wide variety of not only the phytonutrients, but the absorption technologies that are in those whole foods.
Okay, so I'm curious. We have over 30,000 phytonutrients. I know from formulating supplements that we do take some of those phytonutrients and put them in pills. Can we not take all of them? Are some of them not possible to put in supplements?
Some of them are harder than others. Some of them, based on the science that we've done, some of them are master regulators for the body. So some are more important than others. And so what we've done in the supplement space is we can pick and choose some of these master regulators. And the important thing that we're finding in studying these molecules is that a lot of these are synergistic. And
Mm,
we talk about synergy. And I think synergy is an overused word. One plus one equals three. And we talk about how synergy is great, but there can be negative synergy. So what we're finding in studying some phytonutrients, they don't play well together. And what's fascinating is when we find phytonutrients that don't play well together and we look at the foods that they're naturally in or the plants that they're in nature, you'll notice that without exception, they're never together. So it's pretty
interesting.
cool that Mother Nature, she knows what she's doing as far as, let's put these medicinal molecules over here and let's put these others that don't play as nicely over here. And a lot of times they don't cross paths and whatnot. And so one of the things about nutritional supplements I'm really excited about is the ability that we have to pick and choose certain phytonutrients that work well together, that are powerful together, that address a need state that's important for human health. And then we couple in some absorption technologies to make sure that these phytonutrients can get into the cell. And it's a beautiful, powerful thing.
Okay, so I'm curious with these phytonutrients, are they as good in a supplement as they are in the food? Or is the food giving the vitamins and minerals and the fiber and all the other things needed to make your body help your body absorb them better?
I would say that they're both needed. We need to make sure that we're eating foods, whole foods that are rich in phytonutrients. And we could talk about the phytonutrient content of foods can differ. And so that's another topic for another day. But the thing about supplementation is we have the ability to put phytonutrients in supplements that are not normally found in food, and we need both. For instance, in ginkgo, there's really cool phytonutrients called ginkgolides, which,
Mhm.
as you know, are great for brain health and cognitive function and whatnot. And it's great to bring these in. I talked about yerba santa earlier for energy, and these triterpene saponins are not found in food. And so I love the ability to bring those in. A lot of people say, well, supplements aren't needed. They're a waste of money. All you need to do is eat well and exercise. Well, obviously, we need to eat well and exercise. But the last 20 years, we've discovered some pretty cool new molecules that can really take our health to the next level. And so, if we're really serious about being as healthy as we can, science based supplementation is a good, powerful thing because we're bringing in these new medicinal molecules that you can't get as readily from your diet.
Okay, and then I like to always say though, you can't out supplement a bad diet
That's right.
because you can't be eating your frosted flakes and Oreos and ice cream every day and then just take supplements and think you're magically going to be healthy.
That's exactly right. And when we look at these phytonutrients, these medicinal molecules in plants and herbs and botanicals that we bring in from the supplement side, They're powerful and they're important, but phytonutrients that are in the foods that we should be eating every single day are most of them are master regulators. So they're essential for health. A lot of the other ones in botanicals, they're very, very good for health, but we need to make sure that we're eating whole foods to make sure that we're getting these essential medicinal gene regulating molecules.
Okay, so I'm curious when you make these supplements and you're bringing in these phytonutrients from plants, fruits, vegetables, are you bringing them actually from the fruit, the plant, the vegetable, or are you synthetically making them?
We're bringing them in naturally. I'm a big proponent of natural. Now, synthetic, again, there's nothing wrong with synthetic per se, but again, synthetic is not absorbed to the degree. So what I like to do is I like to do a natural extraction where I'm not only pulling out the one molecule of interest, but I'm pulling out the friends of that molecule, that we're pulling it together. And when you do that, you have some absorption technology, so that now when you pull a subset of molecules, it's easier for that medicinal molecule to be absorbed. It's like that famous person that is performing at a concert, right? If you're trying to get that person onto the stage and that person is walking by him or herself up to the stage through 60,000 people, they're never going to get to the stage because everybody's going to want to talk and have a picture and share their experience with how much I love your music, blah, blah, blah. But if you have a group of people surrounding that person, like a group of ushers or bodyguards, they're able to move that person very quickly from the back of the stadium through the crowds and onto the stage. And the same thing is true when you pull out the subset of molecules, you a lot of times bring absorption technology with you. And it's something called polyphenol complexation that's a really powerful technique that I use when I formulate.
Interesting. Okay, so you're you're truly extracting that phytonutrient with molecules surrounding it to help it be absorbed into the body.
That's right.
That's really tricky though for people to know when they're buying supplements at the store. Is this naturally extracted? Is this synthetic? So how do they even know what to look for?
It is. That's a hard thing. People should look for when it says extract, so curcumin extract or ginkgo biloba extract, and then a lot of times after that, it says what it's extracted to, right? Polyphenols, flavonoids, ginkgolic acids, and whatnot. And you want to look for an extraction on the supplement facts panel that says both. That it says number one, it's an extract, and it says what molecules it's extracted to. And a lot of times you want to see if it's extracted to two or more different molecules. And that's what we call standardization. And
Right.
standardization is so important in supplements because you can have an extract of a plant that is basically sawdust. Plants are cellulose, right? That the bioactive, the phytonutrients and medicinal molecules have been baked out of that material. Or you could have a material that's been gently extracted, processed with care that has a large amount of medicinal molecules in it.
And then that's another problem in supplements because no one regulates that.
Yes.
So, making supplements myself, I've seen turmeric come in from around the world, and some of them are very bioavailable and great, and others are like rice powdered colored yellow, I feel like.
That's right. Yeah.
And so, again, you just have to find a brand you trust.
Find a brand you trust. A lot of brands will show you their standardization. They'll show you third party testing saying, hey, we say we have 200 milligrams of resveratrol in here. And then here's a third party testing from a lab that has nothing to do with our company. And they confirm, yeah, you have 204 milligrams in this lot. And so people can look it up and see a third party has validated. But also, yeah, it's important to look for a supplement company that you trust, that has
Yeah.
a good track record, that uses good science, uses good data, shares scientific information, has third party testing behind it.
So, I'm curious, is there one phytonutrient that is your favorite?
Oh,
That's hard if there's over
it is.
30,000
I know.
phytonutrients.
Well, and I love a lot of them, ones that I've worked with and helped discover in the past. It's kind of like choosing your favorite child, right? Which of your child is your favorite? You like them for different things. I really like delphinidin. I really like another molecule called apigenin.
Where are we going to find both of those?
Delphinidin in
Oh, that's right.
eggplant,
You told us eggplant. That's
and
right.
delphinidin is actually in blueberries as well. Apigenin, parsley contains large amounts of apigenin. So I love to cook with parsley.
And what does that molecule do?
That's a master regulator when it comes to sleep
Mm.
and also brain health.
So if people struggle with sleep, they can cook with parsley at
They
night.
can. Yeah.
Okay.
And not just at night, but during the day, right? Circadian rhythm ebbs and flows throughout the day. And so when you bring that rhythm into flow earlier in the day, it's going to extend into the nighttime and improve your sleep.
Okay, as we wrap up here, I have a question for you. So, whenever I state on Instagram that I think food is medicine or I say food is healing, I get slammed. I can say food is nourishing, but the second I start saying it's healing or it's medicine, oh my goodness, the haters, the whoever comes out. Do you believe it's healing and that food is medicine, or scientists don't believe that?
I believe that 1,000%. I think that part of why we're getting slammed when we talk about that, again, is because people don't understand. They don't understand phytonutrients. They don't understand this third class of medicinal molecules that Mother Nature has carefully embedded in all of our food. But when it comes to food as medicine, I would actually say that that phrase is incomplete. I would
Okay.
say that good molecules from food is medicine.
Ooh, interesting. I
Yeah,
like that because ultra processed food is not medicine.
it's
So
not.
there you go. Food is not medicine there, but the good molecules or the phytonutrients. So could I say phytonutrients from food are medicine?
I would say that.
Because what's crazy to me is those phytonutrients are in supplements, phytonutrients are in certain medicines. Therefore, they are healing.
They are. And when you look at it, when someone changes to a healthy diet or when they take a science based supplement, they see health benefits. It's that simple. And why is it? Well, you could trace it down to these medicinal molecules, these phytonutrients from plants. And we're in a phytonutrient dearth right now. We're just not eating enough phytonutrients. You look at what we eat, right? We wake up in the morning and we go to some fast food place and we grab a coffee and we grab a breakfast sandwich, right? Well, how many
If you're
phytonutrients,
lucky,
if you're
some are a
lucky,
muffin or a
yeah,
bagel
a
or a
muffin, a
donut.
bagel, or, or our kids go out to school and they woke up late and, we just have time to throw them a granola bar. Well, how many medicinal molecules are in that granola bar, right? And then you look at school lunch that our kids eat, and or you look at working lunches, right? We go out to eat and we go to a restaurant. How many medicinal molecules are really in that food that we eat?
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so to simplify this for people, every single fruit, every vegetable, every plant out there has phytonutrients.
It does.
And all of those phytonutrients are beneficial to the body
They are. Yes,
and beneficial to the cells and the
they are.
genes,
That's right.
depending on which phytonutrient.
That's right. Now we can, this is a whole new area. And this is what I study. And this is what I share on Instagram because there's different phytonutrients in different foods that are good for certain health conditions. And so if you're interested to know, let's say, I don't know, brain health is really important to me, specifically maintaining a healthy brain and protecting from dementia and Alzheimer's. Well, if that's important to you, there's a whole set of foods that can help with that. Let's say that, perimenopause is an issue for me. There's a whole set of foods that help with that. Let's say
Oh,
that sport performance is really important to me. Well, there's a whole set of foods that are important for that.
we could have you on talking just about all those different health issues because I'm sure there's
Good.
a whole class of phytonutrients for cancer
That's right.
and depression.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. Now I'm like, we need another hour. Okay. I
Yeah.
have a lot of women who listen to this podcast. So I better ask you, could you give me a phytonutrient that's amazing for hormones and one that's amazing for perimenopause?
So when it comes to hormones, there's a molecule called caftaric acid, which is in raisins. It is
Oh, I
actually
hate
really good for
raisins.
hormonal
Oh,
health.
those are the death of me. Find me
Oh.
another food. Find me a good food.
Yeah. So another food for hormone health that's really good, and it's actually the same food for perimenopause. So we'll combine those together
Okay.
in addition to raisins, is a molecule called anethol, which is rich in fennel, the fennel
Okay.
bulb. So if you haven't cooked with fennel, Fennel's fantastic. You get the fennel bulb. You can find it at most grocery stores. You take it, you chop it up into small sized pieces. You put it over your salad. It's really crispy. It's raw. It has a little bit of a licorice taste to it because of anethol, not overpowering, or you can gently saute it.
That I can do,
And
but
it's
tell me
really
what it's
good.
doing for what's this molecule doing?
So this molecule is regulating genes and signaling pathways related to hormone health, estrogen production, progesterone production, and it's helping to make sure that the cycle is balanced properly. These should ebb and flow like sine and cosine waves. And what can happen is that due to lifestyle factors that we mentioned earlier, these can get out of balance and whatnot, and that causes chaos. Anethol regulates genes, which brings them back into harmony.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one more health topic, only because I talk about depression all the time, just because that was a health issue that I dealt with years ago. So, is there a phytonutrient that you love for depression?
Yeah, so delphinidin, which we
Again,
talked
that is
about again, is a really good one, and that's in blueberries. But in general, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries contain a whole host of polyphenols, which are really good for brain function, especially depression.
okay, so good to know. One last question, because I think people might ask me this. Do herbs have more phytonutrients than the fruits and veggies?
They can, depending on how they're processed. And the reason why they can is that herbs, especially dried herbs, are in their concentrated form. And so herbs and spices can contain a little more phytonutrients, yes.
Okay. All right. I love something that you do on Instagram. You stop me every time I see one of these reels and you'll find a food and ask questions about the food and you'll give a quick yes or no. So I'm curious if I can do that with you with apple cider vinegar,
Absolutely.
because apple cider vinegar is a trendy one out there. And so I'm going to ask you some of the trendy questions that I hear about it.
Okay.
Can it help with losing weight?
Yes.
Can it help with losing belly fat?
Yes.
Can it help with digestion?
Yes.
Can it help with blood glucose control?
Yes.
Are all apple cider vinegars the same?
No.
And how come?
Because you want to make sure that the apple cider vinegar has naturally been fermented. And so when you look at apple cider vinegar, you want to make sure it has that cloudy residue in the bottom. That means that it was actually fermented. What a
The
lot of
mother in it?
the mother, exactly. It's called the mother. You want to make sure that that's in there. A lot of apple cider vinegars at the store actually cheat because they take white distilled vinegar and they add apple flavoring and
Oh
color
my
to it.
goodness. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
So,
going to have to look for that.
so if it smells exactly like vinegar and it doesn't kind of have that tangy apple look to it, or when you look at it, it's absolutely 100% clear. And if the price is a lot cheaper than some of the other apple cider vinegars, you could be pretty sure that that's what they've done.
Okay, so can I keep going?
Yeah.
One more question, or I just have one more question. Well, two. Can it help with inflammation?
Yes.
Can it help with migraines?
It depends. It depends on the person and it depends on their gene expression and where they're at. But for some people, it can. Migraines, there's
They're
different.
complicated
They're,
migraines.
they're complicated and sometimes they're idiopathic, meaning we don't exactly know all the mechanisms of action. But for some mechanisms of action, it can.
Man, I would love to every fruit and veggie give that to you. Just a bunch of questions like that. On your Instagram, do spinach next.
Okay, I
Or
will.
have you done spinach?
I have done spinach a little bit ago,
Oh, I
but what
couldn't
I do
find
is
it.
I think I have. I'll have to go back and look. If I haven't, I'll do it.
Spinach and kale.
Okay.
They get a bad rap, both of them, and I love spinach.
They do, and unrightfully so. There's a group of people that talk about in the health space that talk about oxalates
I
and how
know.
terrible they are for you and whatnot. For me, I'm all about the scientific literature. And when you look at the scientific literature, including the research that I've done, there's no good evidence that oxalates found in kale and spinach cause these terrible health conditions. Now, some people can be more
I was going to
sensitive
say, if they're
to
very
oxalates.
sensitive,
If you're very sensitive and you work with your doctor and you've been tested and you have your own experience, then sure. But to just in general say kale is terrible for you and spinach is terrible for you, the scientific literature does not support that at all.
man, I really do have a lot of more questions that I could ask you, because as I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my gosh, we didn't even talk grains,
Yeah.
because grains are plants.
They
And
are.
they get a bad rap,
They do.
but they've got a lot of phytonutrients then,
Oh,
obviously.
they do. If we had more time, we'd talk about farro and freekeh and, buckwheat. There's a lot of cool things to
Are
talk
the
about.
ancient grains more or do the ancient grains have higher concentration of phytonutrients or not necessarily?
In general, they do. They
Wow,
do.
we could do a whole show on grains.
We could.
We might have to have you back.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Tell my listeners where they can find you.
So I share on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, and my handle is Dr. Dan Gubler. So if you go to Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, type in that user handle, you can find me. And I share a new yes no video 6 days a week.
Oh, that is a lot. You are
Yeah.
on there a lot. You guys, I'm telling you, you're one of my favorite to watch those reels with because they're just so simple. And I love hearing what you say about all the fruits and veggies and different things. So make sure you go follow him. And I always end my podcast by asking 5 quick questions. And so, do you mind answering these?
I love it.
All right, here's number 1. What emerging health topic excites you most?
Discovering new molecules. There's so many left to be discovered, like we've talked about. That fires me up.
I was going to say, is there one that you're really researching right now?
I'm focusing on there's a class of molecules called alkaloids, and alkaloids mean that there's a nitrogen in there. And some of the research that I'm doing on different plants, I'm looking at new alkaloids in those plants. Alkaloids I've just always been fascinated with, and when you incorporate nitrogen in an organic molecule, it does some really cool, fascinating.
Interesting. Okay. Number 2, what is a piece of advice you give to your younger self?
Find what you're passionate about and do it regardless of what people say. Find a way to do it. And like they said, if you do something that you're passionate about, you never work a day in your life.
Oh, I love that. That is true. Okay, 3, what's the one health practice you'll never compromise on no matter how busy life gets?
Eating medicinal molecules from plants. Exercise can go, meditation. Now, obviously, you want to do all these things, but a non negotiable for me is to make sure that I'm getting something medicinal from a plant, a fruit, a vegetable every single day.
Okay, I better ask this because I know people ask me after every podcast, I get a lot of DMs. Are you an advocate for a certain amount of fruits and veggies per day?
I I'm more of an advocate of getting a diversity of molecules
Okay.
every single day. So rather than eating, I'm going to eat 5 servings of blueberries or 9 servings of watermelon. Diversity is key. So I would get 3 to 5 servings a day
Of either fruits or
of either
veggies.
fruits or vegetables. I think that should be a standard non-negotiable. And then I would make sure that I incorporate diversity because again, the more diverse we are, the more medicinal molecules we're getting, the more biological pathways we're hitting, and the better our overall health is going to be.
I would love your brain while you're eating. Do you just every scoop know what you're feeding into your body and the chemistry that's happening, or
I
you don't think about that?
No, I do, and I think about it a lot. And my 17-year-old daughter makes fun of me when she's making things in the kitchen. She's like, "Hey, Dad, what does this do?" Or "Why are you putting this in?" Or that's our dinner time conversation
Oh, I love
sometimes.
that. Well, last question. What is the best ingredient you found to life?
Passion.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah.
Not very many people claim that one. But like you
Yeah.
said, if you have passion for something, at least for me, I have passion for health and wellness and
Yeah.
wanting to educate others. So because it's a passion, I want to keep doing it even when times are hard.
Yeah, and that brings joy. It brings joy to me when I follow my passion. And then if you do it with an eye of sharing to other people, you can help them find a little bit of that passion and joy as well. Because there's a lot of people that have the same passion. Like you and I, we love health and wellness. And so when we share that and the work that we do, we develop something, we can bring that same passion and joy to other people, which improves their life. And it fuels their passion. Not only when you do something that you're passionate about and you find that it helps someone, that gives them joy, but it's this virtuous cycle for me
So
that
true.
it just causes this joy, and it helps me to keep going even when
Yeah.
times get hard.
Yep.
You dig down, you dig deep, and you find that passion that you've had, and it helps you move forward.
So true. I love that. Well, again, thank you for being here. I know you're so busy and I appreciate you taking the time to come educate all of us.
My pleasure. I'm so grateful that you'd have me on. I'm grateful for all that you do to improve human health and wellness. Appreciate you.
Thank you.